Well, good evening, everybody. And you know, it finally happened. Something came back to bite the Bidens. Though there's a few things behind that story we may talk about over the next few days. But you know, Hunter Biden was found guilty of 3 felonies. And you might remember Hunter Biden. He had a golden opportunity based on the Biden's Department of Justice basically to escape everything that he was found guilty of today, plus the things that are going to be going on related to taxes in California here. But a certain judge stepped in and said, no, we can't give you this a deal where all of this goes away. And remember, justice for everyone kind of matters. Everyone ought to be treated the same. Now, I'm going to give you a prediction here in a moment. But let me ask you one question. Would you vote? Would you vote for the father of a convicted felon, especially if that father is involved in other felonies that Hunter Biden committed? Now, I won't tell you the guy that I'm talking about, the father. You can kind of figure that out. You know, he's the guy that, I won't go into that. A little bit nutty, but I'm going to make a prediction here in just a moment. But let me say this. We're going to have a lot of people, especially in the wacko mainstream media, come out and they're going to be talking about this and comparing it to the Donald Trump trial. And they're going to say, see, justice for everybody. And, well, no, it's not quite the same thing, because with Hunter Biden, his conviction on these 3 felonies, which, by the way, only took this jury in his home state about 3 hours to come up with a conviction, he very definitely was a drug user. Cocaine every 15, 20 minutes, whatever he has said, or whatever all of these other women that he has slept with have said. He bought a gun illegally, lied, committed perjury on a form, a federal form, that, he basically stated, I wasn't, I'm not an addict. And of course, now we know his lawyer came out and said, well, maybe it's because of his alcoholism, then, or he really didn't know what he was signing because of his drug addiction. He absolutely knew. Hunter Biden has a law degree. You might remember that. And unlike his father, who probably starred in every stinking Super Bowl in the last 50 years, and probably was the first man on the moon, and all the other things that Joe Biden lies about, Hunter Biden should have known better and did know better, but he is a Biden. Bidens can get away with everything. But you're going to see the left-wing media, they're going to come out and say, see, now, Trump can complain about his conviction, but see how fair this is. Well, first of all, when you look at Trump, there was nothing in the Trump trial that made any sense. He had his rights denied. He had a very corrupt judge, Judge Merchan. He had a very corrupt district attorney, Alvin Bragg. In another trial, he had a very corrupt attorney general, Letitia James. I mean, we can go back to Fannie Williams, who, by the way, I've heard is starting her own political action committee. They're going to call it the Fannie Pack. But we look at what has happened to Hunter Biden, who has an upcoming case in California on tax evasion for all the money he got from the enemies of the United States. I find that to be true in the future. You're not going to find it all to be true right now, for when the mainstream media is going to cover it up. But we have to realize that the mainstream media, the only qualification to be part of the mainstream media is you have to be, you have to have no ethics, morals, etc. You come out and say all sorts of stupid things. And it's unfortunate, but here is the prediction I'm going to make. But again, I'm going to ask you the question, would you vote for the father of a convicted felon? Remember the George Soros family and his son, who has since taken over? They want all of the Democrats to come out and constantly talk about Donald Trump as the convicted felon. Now, I know this is true in a variety of ways. One, well, you've seen a little bit of it in the news. You've actually seen quotes from Soros Jr. But when I was in the media many, many years ago, I would get almost on a weekly basis, a fax. Yes, this is back when faxes were in vogue. I would get a fax from the Democratic National Committee, and it would say, here are the talking points. Basically, on my talk show, they wanted me to promote, and I was in Seattle, I believe, at this particular time. They wanted me to promote the Democratic Party, and they would give you talking points. And I can see the garbage that is coming out of the mainstream media, and I'm sitting here thinking, all right, well, they're probably not getting faxes now, but they're getting emails from the Democratic National Committee. Here's what you want to project. Here's what you want to say. And of course, the mainstream media, let's call them the lame stream media, they're going to come out and do whatever their fellow communists want them to do. And that is to present everything in a dim light. Now, let's get to what my prediction actually is. Joe Biden came out here recently and said, or he answered a question. And the question was, will you pardon your son Hunter? And Joe Biden, I believe, lied when he said no. And let me tell you what is going to happen. This is based on my experience in the media, based on my observation on what has been going on the last few years. Joe Biden is going to wait until after the election. Whether he wins or loses, he is going to pardon. He has to wait for this California case to come through, but he is going to pardon Hunter Biden. And he won't do it right now, obviously, because people will look at that in a dim light. But once the election has happened, whether win or lose, Hunter Biden will be pardoned. Write that down. And if it doesn't happen, send a note later on this channel and said, Stuart, you were an absolute liar on this. I'm not lying about it. I believe this is going to happen. And we're going to see that Joe Biden's going to come out and, in the interest of providing unity to the country, I'm going to pardon Hunter Biden because this was a political witch hunt. He's going to come up with all sorts of things. We'll just stack that right up with his uncle being eaten by cannibals or Joe Biden being the first one in his family to go to college. All lies. But it is going to happen. Take my word for it. Now, what I have been thinking about here, which I think would be interesting, is if Trump wins this election, and I say if because it's still up in the air, because we have a corrupt judge in New York City who may sentence Donald Trump to prison. He may do that. Anything to keep him off of the campaign trail. Now, of course, there's other things going on with Judge Merchan. We've heard the alleged cousin of one of the jurors on Facebook coming out and predicting, hey, tomorrow we're going to convict Donald Trump, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Either way, that works for the left because Judge Merchan could also, he could dismiss that, start the trial all over again, force Donald Trump back into a gag order, which I don't think has been rescinded actually yet, but keep him off the campaign trail. But getting back to this comparison between Donald Trump and Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden, a drug addict, kicked out of the military because of his drug addictions, buying drugs constantly, taking cocaine every 15 or 20 minutes, his lawyer tried to say, well, he wasn't an addict at the particular time that he signed that affidavit. Let's call it that. The affidavit for not being a drug addict, buying a gun. And yet we found out that the very next day after the purchase of the gun, he made certain comments through text or email claiming, hey, I'm gonna be seeing this particular drug dealer and I'm gonna buy my drugs and yada yada yada. And I can't remember if he sent that to his late brother's wife that he was sleeping with or somebody new. It could have been one. No, it was one of them. It wasn't all the hookers that we see on his computer. But here is my prediction. Once again, we are going to see President Biden come out and pardon his son. And again, it will be presented as to preserve unity, to bring the country back together. But I'll tell you something that would be really interesting to see. If again, Donald Trump becomes president of the United States. Wouldn't it be interesting to see him say, look, in order to unify the country, despite all of the crap that these far left wacko communists, etc., in the mainstream media, and the corrupt Department of Justice, and the corrupt Biden administration, and really when you get anywhere near the left, you're going to find corrupt. Look up the word corrupt in the dictionary and you'll probably see Joe Biden's picture, or Merrick, well, we don't need to go into his entire staff, but it seems to me that the only qualification or qualifications that you need to have to be in the Biden administration is you have to have no ethics, no morals. You got to be willing to lie, steal, cheat. And yes, we can go back to certain people who've been doing all of those things. And well, never mind. Getting back into Donald Trump, wouldn't it be interesting if Donald Trump said, look, it's enough of this stuff. We need to bring the country back together. And because of that, I am going to pardon Hunter Biden. My advice to Donald Trump, don't do that, though it would be interesting if he did, and I can understand it. But certainly, don't pardon Joe Biden. That's all I got to say for now, and we're going to have more coming up for you here very, very soon. So please subscribe to the channel, leave your comments. Do you think that that Joe Biden is going to pardon his corrupt son? Might as well. Joe Biden's corrupt as well, and birds of a feather flock together. But leave us a message, subscribe to the channel, whatever you want to do, comment on it, or start calling me a liar right now. I've got very, very thick skin. So please feel free to do that. Until then, we will see you later.